remember then about school days?
Well, the earliest school days I went to Harrison Road in Leicester for a short time. Then my parents moved out to Swithland and I went to the village school, a lovely school, a maximum of 18 to 20 children altogether. One teacher who taught us all in one room, different ages from 5 to 14, and she had the highest percentage of scholarship passes of anywhere in the county. Fortunately, I was one of the good ones. I don't be any other. And then we lived in Leicester for a short time, and I went to Sweetbriar Road and Falborough Rise schools, only for short periods. Then came back out to Rowcliffe Road, where my parents bought this house, and lived there till I got married. But from there, I got a scholarship to Rollins Grammar School, Quorn. And I stayed there the rest of my school days. And from there, I got a job.
Just going back to school days,
Yeah.
did you have any confrontations with, and I don't imagine you would, but confrontations with teachers, with corporal punishment, or was that around?
I tell you what I did have. When I was at Rawlins, one of our teachers was a brother who is still in the meeting at Solihull, a brother Howard Cork. It was his first teaching job from college, and I led him an awful dance. But, you know, you didn't argue about what the treatment was like, you just accepted what you got. You got a dissension, or you got your hands clipped with a ruler, and that was it.
Did you get that?
Hmm?
Did you get that?
Oh yes.
Oh right.
And I talked to Brother Cork from time to time, and I spoke to him last week, and I said, I bet I was one of your worst pupils. He said, oh, I wouldn't say that. So I said, well, I do remember driving you mad, and you saying, Betty, you ought to be ashamed of yourself behaving like this from your background. He said, oh, I don't remember that.
How old must he be then?
Well, he's 93 now.
Oh right.
Still alive.
Still doing well.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't get him into an early grade then, did you?
No.
Right. So that's your school days. You were saying then you left school, and
Yeah.
what was your first
Went
job?
to Clark's Boxes at Mount Sorrel. My parents weren't very pleased about that. They wanted me to go into teaching or something of that nature. But no, that wasn't for me. And when I wouldn't go there, they wanted me to go to the BU. Well, eventually I did. Got a job and went there. I spent all my working years, 42 years, at the BU, and thoroughly enjoyed it all. And it was while I was there, of course, that the war broke out in 1939. And I was called up, and they didn't try to keep me because they said, oh, she's a conscientious objector, she'll get off. But I was sent to Loughborough, to Herbert Morris's, and they were, oh yes, they were going to have me. So when I got back, my boss nearly had a fit. He said, oh no, if you're that important to them, we're not letting you go. I'm not really that clever, you know, but it was what it was like with staff in those days. So I spent, as I say, the rest of my time working at the BU.
So at the BU you started off as what position, and what did you end up?
I started off, well, I don't know whether people know much about this. In the accountancy in those days, they had this punch card system. When it was all the accountancy was done on machines, something after the style of a typewriter, but you put cards in and it punched holes into it. And then it was all processed through sorting and interpreting the holes into whatever. And then a tabulator to print it out, and did all the accounts on that. Well, I started at the bottom, and then ended up as the supervisor of the department.
Over?
Well, there again, it varied. 18 girls, and into the 20s. I don't remember how many. But,
And you were there for how many years?
42.
So in that time, when obviously before that or during that, you met Ken?
Yes, I met Ken in 1939, or somewhere about that, when I first started to work at the BU, and he was doing his last bit at school. And of course he lived near to us. He lived at Cropston, I lived at Roadcliffe Road, and I used to see him on the bus, and we got friendly. And, for about 8 years before I got married, because they were Quakers, and they used to come to the meetings with us, and he was quite interested, but I mean, you know Ken, he couldn't see the importance of the religion as we did, but my dad used to talk to him, and he gradually realised there was something in it. And then eventually he was baptised, and after that, quite some time, we got married.
And what year was that?
1954.
And then this was built, or?
And when we got married, or well, when we were going to get married, we decided we'd like to have a bungalow built, and we knew a local builder who was quite good, and we used to go down night after night and discuss plans and all that with them. Then eventually this is what happened out of it. We had this built. In the meantime, this isn't part of it really, his dad, Kenneth's mother had died, and his dad had remarried, bought a plot of land next door and borrowed our plan and had a similar one built, and that's why there's two the same. Anyway, then of course we stayed here the rest of our lives.
What did this cost?
2,100.
Complete?
Yeah.
Recollection of transport that you can remember, the earliest form of transport that you may have used?
Well, and right up until the war and during the war afterwards, it was, the general transport was trams, of course. I mean, individually it was push bikes everywhere, no cars. Well, not from in my life. We didn't have cars. Father had his first one in 1934. But the ordinary transport was trams. And from Melton Turn to the Clock Tower, it was, we called it 3 halfpence, a penny halfpenny.
And how long did the journey take?
10 minutes or so.
Nearly as good as today. The tram.
Yeah, there were double deckers, of course, and when you got to the Clock Tower, you could come down the front steps by the driver and get off in the middle of the road and go where you wanted.
It was an open top.
I think some of them were open top. I'm not too clear about that.
And what was your first car that you had between,
Ours?
If you can remember.
We had, can't remember what it was, but I know Ken always had a motorbike, and we used to go everywhere on the motorbike.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Then we had this car, and we went to Skegness for our honeymoon in it. Can't remember what make it was a small one. And while we were in Skegness, we saw the new A30, which was new in those days. So after a while, we decided we would sell the one we got and have an A30.
Oh, right.
And changed it from year to year. There was always an Austin, not a very big one.
Were they all new?
No, he wouldn't have a new car because he said you want it 12 months old when all its faults have been ironed out.
And that's why you lived here, all this?
Yeah, I've always lived here.
You mentioned about, you were saying about when you were at school. Did you do any sport at school?
No, I played hockey, but not, and a bit of tennis, but I was never a sporty type.
No. But you played, what did you say at the BU? You played...
I played hockey for the BU because Ken was a good player
All right.
and I went along and then ended up refereeing them.
You did?
Yeah,
Oh.
didn't have to run about.
You made that call on holiday. So you went, where did you go, say, for your holidays? Early days?
Well, we nearly always went to North Wales because we liked it, Penmaen Mawr. And then later on, Ken's brother was married and we used to go down to Hampshire and stay with them and places round about.
What about hobbies? Have you ever had any hobbies of sorts?
Yeah, I did. Gardening and dressmaking and cooking, you know, just ordinary domestic things, but they were things I enjoyed and did.
And got the benefit from?
Yeah.
And you gardening, like you said?
Yeah.
Mainly.
Oh, yes, I always did that.
Right, that's come back to the end of the
Interview.
interview. Your CV.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. I don't think it'll be like Michael Parkinson, but...
Well, you'll be Ivan Carter and that's what we want. Now a cup of tea.
I love a cup of tea.
Oh, well, that'll give me great pleasure.
I love a cup of tea.